I've got an amazing partner in crime here, Keith Keller. We're actually going to be doing a new show called Live Streaming Decoded. And with the influx of everything that's going on, a lot of us are seeing sort of that shift to live stream. And we want to kind of cover some of the bases in terms of what's important and what's not, some of the tools, tactics, strategies, all that kind of stuff. Welcome, Keith. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I just thought it would be a lovely idea to take what we're doing already, because we've been doing this a long time, and we thought, well, look, why don't we make a little bit of a decoder show to say, look, if you're thinking about putting your face on the camera and recording it, and maybe that's the way of connecting with your audience, and a lot of people, still a lot of people, 2020 haven't thought of this, and so they've been forced to concede it. So I thought, well, we're going to pull apart some of our favorite sites. You like BeLive. We're using BeLive today.
Yes. Yeah.
BeLive streaming to Facebook Live. That's part
Correct.
one.
Yes. Yeah.
But then we're going to try StreamYard. We're going to try other sites. We're going to try Periscope, LinkedIn Live, maybe Twitch.
There's so many different combinations. That's what I guess the confusing part is.
Yeah.
Right. And how do these pieces actually work together, and what are we supposed to do with them, and how they're supposed to work, and all that. So that's kind of what we wanted to get to is how do we put these pieces together? How do we make it easy?
The thing that's very interesting is that right here, we've got the exact opposite flow of technology. You've got a mic. We'll talk about mics in a minute, because you've got a lovely mic, which gives you a really lovely, warm, deep bass sound. More importantly, no sort of tunnel sound. You know, like if you hear people talking in their bedroom, it sounds like they're in a tunnel. It sounds shocking, right? So, or you could put headphones on, and that gives you a really lovely, rich mic sound and no clunky headphone look. The other idea, which I've got, which is very sort of $100 at Officeworks, is a pair of headphones, which means no one else in the house, if you're in a busy household, can hear what you're doing other than what you say. I get quite a clear sound in my mic.
Yeah, it's a good sound. It is nice and clear. Is it one of those auto canceling ones or noise canceling?
I think it is. It's a Logitech. I love Logitech products. I'm not sponsored by them, but I do seem to have quite a lot of their stuff. So here's a piece of tech that cost me $100. I can hear you very clearly, and you can hear me very clearly.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, like you get one of these, right? That come with your phone, and that's where you need to start, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to go out and spend $100 on a mic or a headset or whatever, right?
Yeah,
because that cuts down on that ambient noise that sometimes comes up unexpectedly.
Yeah, that's a lovely way to put it. Ambient noise. Like wifey flushing the toilet, right?
Yeah, honey, can you come fix the toilet, please? Oh, sorry, I'm on a call.
Have you seen that video with the guy speaking to like a really high level financial show, and the kid comes in? Have you seen that video?
Yeah. That was from a couple years ago. That was hilarious.
So this is going to happen. This is going to start happening to us. We've been in lockdown for 3 weeks, and
it's already happening, right? Like people are doing this now, so we want to make sure that we've got the platform in place.
Yeah. So tell me about BeLive. Tell me why you love it. We're starting with BeLive.
Well, I was looking at that earlier. I've actually done like 120 episodes on BeLive. I've got a little screenshot here I can show. Hopefully we can all see that. I won't show it for too long, but I mean it was one of those things that I just kind of stumbled across. So I've been using it for about 3 years now. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of connect with Facebook, because as you know, Facebook is a good, well, that's obviously the sort of the, how would you describe that? The platform that we broadcast from, but BeLive is the actual tool to say, okay, this is the feed and this is how we do it. I kind of picked BeLive. There were a lot out there, and was like, okay, I'm just going to pick one and go with it, kind of thing. Just because it gave you that ability to, some of the key ingredients were adding guests, like for example, having Keith there. You can have, a number of guests that are part of the show. And to me, that's kind of the show that I wanted to build back then, was kind of like an interview. Let's get a bunch of people together and talk about some interesting topics type thing. So that's kind of was the overriding thing. They've improved the interface a lot over the years, but it allows, like, you can see the screen graphics and you can do all kinds of fancy stuff going on. This is actually what it looks like from my perspective with just me. I took a screenshot before. So you can kind of see how that, actually, I can't enlarge it. You can move these things around, which is kind of fun, but sometimes they're a little bit pane. I mean, it's kind of like a broadcast studio. It's sort of an
Yeah.
introductory broadcast studio, so it's pretty good. So
Well, I'm very interested in this idea because the reason I personally haven't used BeLive is that it doesn't sync to Periscope, which is a Twitter product. And as you know, I'm the Twitter dude. That's sort of what I'm known for. So I can't use it on Periscope, which seems a little bit pointless to me. And they don't include LinkedIn Live, which is very, very powerful, 650 million users. And I'm thinking, well, there's the two ones that I would probably use myself, and they're not available. So as we progress over the course of this series, I'm going to introduce you to other sites that, for instance, next week we're going to do StreamYard, and StreamYard allows for up to 5 sites. You can stream to LinkedIn and to Facebook and to YouTube and to Periscope and to Twitch, and Restream, which is even better, can repurpose to 30 sites. Can you imagine it? Now, the reason that's important is because in a world where I live in Melbourne and you live in Perth, you might not be on Twitter at the same time I'm on Twitter, but you might love Facebook. So you want to hang out, or you want to be present in the sites where your tribe is likely to be. Twitter's not that popular in Australia, so if I streamed only to Twitter, then I'd miss all of the people that were on LinkedIn or all of the people that were using Facebook that day. They just wouldn't see it. So multi-streaming, which is what I'm really into, is I'm going to try all these different ones. Today we're trying BeLive, and you say that you can use Facebook Live, YouTube, and you said Twitch as well, yeah?
I haven't actually tried Twitch because, as you said, right, you need to do it in the where your audience is, where your tribe is, and typically for me that's on Facebook as well.
And do you know the demographic of Twitch? I've never used it.
My understanding is that it's more like a gaming platform, so it's where you can share video games and snippets like that. So it's kind of like TikTok, kind of like PlayStation Network and that sort of thing, where you can basically have a live stream of you playing your video games. So again, I haven't tried it a lot, so other than seeing that, we can connect with that, and there was a big push on it probably about a year or so ago when they first added it. So but that's the main thing too, is deciding where do you want to broadcast to. So do you want to broadcast to Facebook, do you want to broadcast to YouTube, or where is it that people are going to actually watch this show, right? And I think maybe that's one of the things to clarify, is that it is kind of not necessarily complicated, but if you think of it as like a television set, like Facebook would be, a channel within that television set.
That's right, it's a channel. It's a channel, like Channel 7.
Yeah, but at the same time, then what is, that's a good point to discuss. Like, what is, okay, so I can broadcast with a StreamYard to YouTube and to Facebook and a few others, right, simultaneously. So am I broadcasting to a channel or to a TV? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, look, one of the things I love about StreamYard, and I can only talk about StreamYard because this is the first time I've used BeLive, but one of the thing I love about StreamYard is that if you have a wide network, you can tell people, look, wherever you are today, you can watch my show. And why that's really powerful is that if someone's on LinkedIn and they make a comment, it comes into the feed. And if someone's on Facebook and they're on today, they can come into the feed. So you're actually saying to people, wherever you are today, I'll follow you. Rather than you come to me, I'm just broadcasting out into the ether, and you pick it up on whatever channel suits you. And StreamYard and the others are really clever at saying, okay, well, whatever comments are being made, we'll feed them back into your feed as like on a sort of a mixing table, and you can then, and it's really clever, I've seen it done really well, you can add that feed, a bit like Q&A. Have you seen Q&A, how they add the comment? So one of us probably is watching the feed, and you can feed the site, you can question in, so it's very interactive. And so the power of that is that if you were on Facebook, that's great, but only the people that were on Facebook could see it and comment, which is a tribe. I've got a following there, and I've got a following on Twitter, and I've got a following on LinkedIn. I haven't used Twitch, and I'm not on YouTube very much. But the great thing about these sites, and the better ones are really playing this out, they're starting to say, okay, well, let's find out where the markets are.
Mm.
Instagram has a totally different market to LinkedIn. The people are different. They're not the same amount of people. Even Instagram and Facebook are slightly different. And I'll tell you a couple of parameters I've already decided, because I've noticed you've got a nice little checklist. One of the parameters I'm going to do is that I'm only going to feature sites that have a free option. Because first of all, I don't want people to have to spend $30 to try something and then decide they don't want it. I want them to try it and say, you know what, I like it. I'm gonna upscale, like Spotify. Like everyone starts with Spotify with the ads, and then they go like $10 and I get rid of the ads. Such a no-brainer. Click. Costs you $10 and you can have unlimited music all day with no ads.
Yeah.
So, but we all started with, well, what's this thing called Spotify? Unlimited songs. The ads are annoying, but for $10 you can get rid of them. So that's the first thing. Every site that I test will have that free, what we call freemium model.
Yes.
There's a robust
and that's
free
important.
version.
You should be able to try it out to see if it actually works for you as well, because some are easy and some are a bit more complicated and some are a bit more feature rich and that sort of thing. And what we're going to actually do is produce like a checklist, a spreadsheet of which platform has what based on some of this criteria as well. So
what do you think is important? What sort of features do you think are important in a live streaming setup?
The top of mind, I mean, I've got a list of 15 here, but fundamentally is you want to be able to interact. You want to be able to have like a couple people on the show at the same time. And you need to be able to record, right? If you can't record, then there's no real point to doing that. And that's actually probably one of the reasons why I picked Be Live, is that you can record directly in two places, on Facebook and on the Be Live console as well. So you can actually do that. And what they've done recently, which is pretty cool, is they've separated the file into an MP4 video file and an MP3. So you can download a specific MP3 afterwards, and you just have the audio file, and away you go.
So you could technically turn it into a podcast if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, with something like Restream.io, you could, as you're broadcasting, it can split it up as well. So it's something that certainly works.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly what I want this show to be about, because like I've noticed that I'm what we call an early majority. I'm not right there at the start. I never ever.
Oh, come on, Keith, you are. you're right at the beginning here.
Maybe I'm a little bit more early adopter than most people I know.
Oh, I would say you're in the top 5%.
but I do know that I let it go a little bit. Like Livestreaming has been around since about 2015.
Yeah.
So Periscope came out, and then remember, I can't even remember the name, Meerkat. Remember Meerkat? Came and went.
Yeah.
Then there was Blab.
It lasted like for 9 months. So it's interesting because they started quickly and they burned out so fast.
Yeah.
But yet they really were sort of laying the foundation for what's to come. So
well, Periscope and Meerkat were running parallel for a long time.
Yeah.
People that were really into it preferred Meerkat, but some of the people on this call probably wouldn't even have heard of them. And Blab came and went. Did you ever try Blab?
Yeah. I tried Blab. I tried Meerkat. Yeah.
My favorite thing ever.
Yeah, and it was quite disappointing when they made their announcement that Blab was like disbanding or whatever. So I don't know. I guess they couldn't make money at it at the time.
But they set the ground rules for what we now have.
They did. And it probably was a trial period. I mean, I think a lot of it too is that you look at it in terms of, okay, if you don't have a lot of people broadcasting, is it really kind of worth that effort? So I think we've kind of reached that inflection point to say, okay, there are a lot of people online who are now comfortable with video calls and that sort of thing. And I think it's even going to get more detailed in terms of how we actually do that. Like every second post is, it's, everybody's Zooming their meetings and all that kind of stuff around the world, which is one platform that we need to talk about, and obviously the security issues around that. But it's really kind of getting to that point to say, okay, there are a lot of people here to be able to support these platforms too, right?
Only today did I saw an article that said suddenly a company has become a verb. Like Zoom, you zoom in, right?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And that is one of the most fundamental identifications of a brand, is when they become a verb. And it's so cool to see that evolve too. I mean, I've honestly been on Zoom for like since they came out, 2015, I think it was. But yeah, when you see people talking about it in a verb, you know, kind of, well, okay, we're here.
Yeah. But yeah, and one of the concepts we will talk about in upcoming shows is Zoom is a lovely platform, but has some security concerns. And there's
Yes.
a competitor product called WebEx, which I'm trialing at the moment, which is almost identical, but is run by Cisco, and so therefore you can probably assume that security is going to be tighter. And that's an alternative product in the same marketplace. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
Up to 100 people on the call, lots of great meetings. You can record it. It's HD. It looks great.
Yeah.
Easy to use.
Yeah,
and
no,
virtually
definitely.
unlimited.
Yeah, but some of them do have costs as well associated with them. So you kind of have to look at your budget. Does your audience and business behind that support it? And I think that's probably pretty important too, is how do you use these to leverage them for your business too, right? So you can have as many Zooms and lives as you want, but unless it's kind of tied into your ecosystem and the business, then it just sort of is. It's a nice to do. It's a nice to have as well. So we have to look at how does this affect your business, or how can
Yeah.
you sort of engage it with your business as well.
And what's the price point with BeLive? How do you upscale? So there's obviously a free trial, have a go type service, but what about if you want to go up the line? How do you do that?
It's basically based on the number of guests primarily, I think,
Okay.
is how they do that. So as a single show, I think that's their freemium model, where you can set it up, you can run it. I'm not sure if they've allowed guests for the first part, but I obviously haven't used the free model in a while. But then it's, yeah, how many guests can you have? Do you have like a group chat type thing where I can add up to 4 guests here on BeLive? And the interesting thing is that I can actually have more people in the green room, right, in the waiting area, and then I can bring them up.
Oh, you bring them in.
Yeah, I can bring them in, which is fine. So you can have a fairly good group, but the only thing is you can only have 4 at a time, right? So if you're looking for more people to have simultaneously, then you need something like Zoom where you can have all the icons of everybody type thing. So that's something to look at. They call it a talk show format, like you and I talking, right? I can have up to 3 guests, and I've run hundreds of
How many
not quite
people could be in the chat room simultaneously? Do you know?
Good question. I've never actually tried to load it up that much,
Do they
because
have a chat room idea?
well, there is a chat room. Yeah, there's a host chat as well. So you and I can chat, and I can chat to any of the other guests as well directly while we're broadcasting and that sort of thing. So that's good. But it does come, and this is where sometimes you have to look at is the technology actually going to help me or hinder me, right? Because if you have too many people on the show, it can get a little bit hard to manage. It can get a little bit hard to kind of focus as well as spending attention with that, with 4, 5, 6 people. Like, it can be a challenge over time if you're going through some very technical topics where an answer might be a couple minutes type thing to get to that
Well,
depth.
let me pick up on that, because one
Yeah.
of the big challenges with Zoom is I think they've solved what was at one stage called Zoom bombing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So with StreamYard and with BeLive, and I'm guessing they're very similar, we have complete control over who comes into the room. Yeah, with StreamYard, it's up to 6 people, but maximum of 6. And so we have complete control over who they are. With Zoom, you can have up to 100 people, but at several stages in the last month, people have been coming to random Zooms and forcing their way in.
Yeah.
And showing really graphic images on their laptop.
Yeah, that's not funny. I shouldn't laugh about that. But there's actually there's an Australian radio host. I can't remember his name. Anyways, he's one of the funny guys on the radio. Anyway, he actually did that deliberately, but he got the link from somebody. It's like, hey, if you want me to jump into your Zoom meeting, just send me the link. I'll do it, and we'll broadcast the radio show as well as the video.
Is that Husey?
Yeah, I think it was Husey. Yeah. Oh, no, not Husey. No, it's one of the younger guys.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I can't remember exactly what it was. But anyway, he did that deliberately. So yes, you don't want people joining your Zoom inappropriately, and if you're doing that shit, like, don't, right?
Yeah,
But
it's rude.
Yeah, it absolutely is rude, but actually you can sort of stop that by having permissions at the front. So
which
people
they've
have
done
to
now.
yeah, you have to give permissions. That wasn't automatic before, but now they've automated that. I always had that too. It's like somebody comes in, they don't just jump into the Zoom room, they have to go through that can I join your room type thing. But it's actually funny. I saw this post this morning, and I'll send it to you and I'll post the link. But there's actually a service, I think it's in the US, where you can hire a Zoom service, but it's actually like a Zoom video camera of a llama or of an animal, and you can broadcast that into your Zoom meeting.
Wow. Okay. Well, because we're all being very creative about how to maybe pay the bills. People are losing their houses in their normal
Yeah.
workplace, but also the idea that we're very creative. Like I wanted to be in radio when I was very young, and I went to radio school, and several of my mates are in radio. And they're a little bit annoyed that there's all these hacks just having a go. And I said, well, why wouldn't we? We've all got a personality, and we all want to share what we know. And so now we live in a world where for $20 a month, we can have our own show.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. You democratize your late night talk shows.
Yeah. And so I'm really excited by why we've started with Be Live, because Be Live is one of the simpler ones, isn't it? It's got some features, but not many features. And it's
Yeah.
a very good place to start, because most people are probably going to Facebook Live. That's where they're probably going to start.
Yeah.
But Be Live doesn't allow you to go to Periscope or LinkedIn Live. And I know that we're going to try these other ones, because I know you want to go to LinkedIn Live really desperately. And we're going to get you there, because you've been trying for ages, haven't you?
Yes.
So, but next time we're going to talk about StreamYard, which I personally love. And my friend
Yeah.
Anne-Marie Cross, who I started a radio show with in 2008, she has absolutely nailed it. And the difference between StreamYard, just to prep where we're going with this, is that they have a free version, and they upscale based on how many sites you stream to. So that you can have 6 guests even in the free version, 6.
Wow.
But if you want to go to 2 sites, you have to pay $25 a month. And if you want to go to 5 sites, you have to pay $50 a month. And you can only record in the paid versions. And they have the ability to go to Facebook Live profile or group. And they also have the ability to go to LinkedIn Live. And I know that interests you, so we've got to get that working.
Yeah.
And they have the ability to go to Periscope. And I think that's the natural extension from this positioning, because I can't do Periscope on this platform, and I'm a Twitter dude. So this is
Well, there you
really
go. So
pointless for
why?
me.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to find the one that fits for you. And if I may, we've come up with some criteria. Maybe we'll just quickly go through all of them,
please.
so that we can, and we want to add some too. And we are live, or if you actually, we are supposed to be live. Hopefully, we're live. But if you do have a comment, please ask a question in the comment box, and we'll get to it. But we're going to produce a list of the specific criteria, right? So number 1, guests and how many, right? So we talked a little bit about that with Be Live. Screen sharing. Are you able to share a screen of a PowerPoint presentation or of, some graphics and that sort of thing? And I'm showing you now that I can. Actually, what it is good with Be Live is that you can actually add images specifically, so you don't necessarily have to jump to another program.
Actually, that's very powerful. I've never
Yeah,
heard
like
of that.
this is just an image, right? These are just images. So I can just pop them up at any time, hide them, that sort of thing. So it makes it
It goes in a
pretty.
buffer, like
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it's how do you actually put these in place? How do you put these images as well, which is pretty good to have. Big thing is scheduling, right? Can you actually schedule these in advance? Facebook is very, very finicky in terms of doing that. So this is one that it actually plugs directly into Facebook to say, we
okay.
want to schedule a show, and in this case, Thursday morning at 9 Perth, 11 Melbourne time, to be able to broadcast at this time. So you kind of set up the platform, the foundation, the name of the show. You can then
And the
add
link
some of
is
the
recurring?
graphics. Well, just for this video, right? So it goes to the specific video link, and then Facebook reserves that link to say, okay, at this time, you have to start your show. if it's scheduled. If you miss the window by like 5 minutes, it shuts the show off, and it,
Ah,
it doesn't
okay.
it doesn't allow you to broadcast. Or you just basically pop up and say, hey, let's do a live now kind of thing. And you can do that with this as well. So it's pretty good to be able to have. Number 5, registration and event pages. BeLive doesn't have that. You have to set up a separate event page. So if you're looking at getting a lot of people there, you either have to do it through Eventbrite or through a Facebook event or that sort of thing as well. Cost, number 6, what's it going to cost for you? Just to test it out, see what's going to work. And I don't think I actually came up with a figure, but I think it's about $150 a year for BeLive type thing. So it's not super expensive. It's one of the more cost-wise type tools as well. Number 7, Keith, you talked about that a lot. Multiple channels, right? Can you broadcast it onto YouTube, onto Facebook, onto LinkedIn, onto Twitter? All those kinds of things. So that's super important that we understand that. Where are you trying to broadcast? And again, you have to look at what is that? Where is your audience, and what are they looking for as well? Video quality, right? Is it a 720 video or 1024? A lot of it does depend on your camera, and we'll go into some of the tech. I'm using.
BeLive?
Sorry.
What is BeLive?
Well,
Is it 720?
actually, it's I think it's like they call it simulated 1024 or 1080.
Okay.
No, it's not 1080, definitely, without question, right? So keep in mind that it's not. Also, Facebook downgrades it too, as well, to 720. I think is pretty typical. So
Let me just pick up on why that's important.
yeah, absolutely.
So Zoom, for instance, is 1080p, which is HD, high definition.
Yeah.
Not 4K, which is ultra high definition, but it's 1080. You could watch it on your TV. Right? And the reason that's very important, especially when you're recording, is when you're editing. If, for instance, you want to zoom in and feature a guest, say you had multiple guests, the more editing you do, the more fuzzy it will become as you go lower down that number. So 720 is like the minimum. 720 is fine. It's usually okay, but it can be a bit fuzzy if you play it on a bigger device like a tablet or a laptop. And if you're talking about making a show that looks good, not just you talking with your friends, then you've got to. That's one consideration of the product type. So both BeLive and StreamYard are 720p. Zoom, for instance, is 1080p, and so it looks great. And what 1080p really means, and the way I explain it, is that it looks more lifelike. It's not so pixelated. Now, you've all seen pictures of fuzzy photos that they probably look great on the day, but you've edited them so many times and you've blown them up and taken the bits out that really it's just all dots. So I'm glad you put that in, because that's a very important calculation for me.
Yeah,
the screen resolution,
and it needs to be. Because you have to look. That's one of the points you brought up, is that you want to be able to reuse this video, right? So Keith, you're going to do a mashup of different sections and then broadcast those out on Twitter, right? Which is fantastic. And that's sort of the business side of getting that, building your audience and building your business as well. So just being able to do that. But yeah, the limitation here with BeLive is I'm pretty sure it is 720. But it does depend on the camera too, and your internet connection and that sort of thing. Because as you're talking, like I can see some of the pixelation comes, and then it's nice and clear, and then some of the pixelation comes back as well. So you kind of have to wait and see what it actually works with yours. You don't need to go out and buy like a massive DSLR either. Like that's one of the big mistakes a lot of people make, is they go buy all the expensive equipment. Just get comfortable with it. Find a camera that works. Your webcam, I'm using a Logitech 1080 camera that's above my webcam from my laptop, but you can just start with your webcam as well. So they're pretty decent in terms of being able to use them right away. What kind of camera are you using, Keith?
I've got a Logitech. I think it's called the 920.
Okay.
But the resolution is 1080p. So that's HD.
Yeah.
And so it's really interesting you say that, because I really, really, really considered buying this unbelievably fancy 4K camera, and then I realized that no one's broadcasting in 4K.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the load on the internet at 4K.
Well, that's the thing too, is that your internet couldn't handle broadcasting in 4K, quite honestly, for most people anyways. In some places it could. But I don't know what bandwidth you'd need to be able to do that. So yeah, it
Mm,
seems kind of pointless. It is good if you're going to do a recorded video, then and upload that to YouTube or to Vimeo
yeah.
or whatever platform, because you're not worried about it being live. But if it's live, yeah, you have to kind of take that into consideration as well. Number 9, download. So can you download the show afterwards? As I mentioned with Be Live, yes, you can. You can. It splits it into an audio and video file, and it also, because you're broadcasting to Facebook, Facebook also um, saves a copy as well, for the video feed and that sort of thing. Number 10, ease of use setup, making sure that it is pretty simple to use. Be Live is, it's a little bit complicated to get. There's a massive array of buttons that you can use and that
Mhm.
sort of thing. So it can be a little bit tricky, and if you don't do a show for a while, it's like, hey, what does this button do? And oh yeah, forgot I need to press that one. So it should be
Not
pretty easy to
not
use. Yeah.
seamless.
Sorry.
It's not seamless. It's a little bit hard to get your head around
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah, it is. Like I'm a pretty good tech guy, but there's one, well, actually, where's the screen there? Um, anyway, there's quite a few. I don't want to jump out of the show here
No, no.
mistakenly, but anyways, yeah, there's about 7 buttons down your control panel that you can use. You can add different text. You can add different pictures and images that I talk. You can share a screen. You can actually do some live shopping.
Yeah, you can
Can
feature a product.
Yeah, you can feature product. You can change the graphics as well, back and forth to whatever I've kind of pre-programmed also.
Okay.
So yeah, it works pretty cool. All right, ease of use. Number 11, branding. So can you add branding to your show if you want it, of course? And yes, with Be Live, you can actually add a full frame around the video console, and you can have the little visual bugs as well, your logo, and then the screen graphic
Yep.
overlay as
Yep.
well. Recording, yes, I talked about that. You can actually do that, making sure that you have that, because part of it is not just having the live stream, it's actually what you do with it after, and that's where the
Cool.
business side comes into it as well. Green room for guests. Oh, sorry, backgrounds, green screen, chroma keys. Be Live doesn't do that, so
Oh wow, no
I
green screen.
can set up like a virtual camera. Basically, it goes through, and then I can process a green screen. Um, but it's complicated, and if you're running an older computer, might not be able to keep up.
Well, one of the reasons that's important, that's a really important point you mentioned, because Microsoft Teams, I've noticed, has this fuzz the background feature, which I really like.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
you and I both, we've been doing this a while. We've set up our little office, and it's reasonably decent. But I've seen some people like live streaming in the lounge room, and there's washing in the background, and the kids are running around, and you're thinking, okay, well that's fine. I mean, we all know that you've got to live life, but there has to be a time when you sort of up the level so it looks a bit professional. And
Yeah.
all of these little tools, like a green screen or fuzzing out the background or making it 1080p, all they do is they make the file look better for people that are wanting to get the information. If you've got washing in the background or kids running around, it's a bit distracting, right? And I think we've chatted about this on a previous show.
It certainly can be, yeah. And we had that one little video clip where everybody kind of learned about live broadcasting, where the politician or whatever
Yeah.
finance guy was talking, and his one of his small children walks in, and then the other one walks in,
And then the mum comes and
and
gets them.
then the mom comes and gets them.
Yeah. And so you want to avoid those types of things, and these types of gadgets, little gimmicks in a way, they really help to focus the image so that all you're really doing is focusing on the person that's talking.
Yeah, and I've absolutely. So you can actually use alternate backgrounds too with something like Zoom, and we've seen them where they're like in Rome or
Yeah.
on the ocean or in space. So that's pretty cool. There's actually a couple services that I've seen that are actually creating some pretty interesting or wacky
Yeah. Yeah.
backgrounds that you just kind of
Yeah.
put in there. So somebody's made a business of that too. Not only llamas appearing for your Zoom meeting, but different backgrounds. I've actually also seen some people use different lighting as well, and
Yeah.
that's pretty cool, where they have like a green light or blue light in the background, so it still focuses mostly on the person. Because if you're creating the show, you want people to focus on you, not what's on your bookshelf, or I guess
Yeah.
what's on your whiteboard or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
And as we work through them, we'll go through this checklist, and each site will do something slightly differently. Like Zoom
Yeah.
has a phenomenal green screen feature.
Yeah, yeah,
Really
exactly. It's pretty
powerful.
cool. And it's pretty easy. It's just
Yeah.
click the button and away you go. Number 14, green room for guests. So yeah, we talked about that, where I can hold as many people. I don't know what the upper limit is, but you can have extra people waiting to come on to the show. So you don't have to have everybody broadcasting at once. So it's a great idea if you can actually so that you basically can talk with your guests before the show, right? That's fundamentally
Yeah.
what it's for. You can prep them, you can answer their questions, you can give them some questions or help them with their tech or whatever. So that's pretty important to have so you don't, as soon as you turn it on, you're not live, right? It's like, let's just chat, let's get warmed up, and then we can go live. Like when we started Keith, it's like, okay, we're going live now, kind of thing.
So you've got a warm-up feature.
Yeah, actually, it's a good idea. Well, that's a good way to express it. It's a warm-up, right? Because if you come in from a call, on your phone, it's like, hey, how's it going? What are you doing? All that kind of stuff, the chit chat. You want to do that before so that, you're kind of warmed
One of the
up.
things I noticed, I don't think StreamYard does this, and I've never seen it done before, is they have a countdown. I love that feature. Is that a common thing?
Yeah. Well, there is one in Be Live. So it counts down from 5
Yeah.
once you basically go
Which
live.
gets you
So
ready.
yeah, it does. But you have to be prepared that there's usually another 5 seconds on the other half
Oh, okay.
before actually everything connects and it starts. And because I've noticed if I start like right away after the countdown starts, it's usually cut off. So I just kind of take my time, wait a few seconds,
Okay.
and then get into it. All right. Cool. And the last one was practice runs, right? Which is really important with something like this. Just get out there, try it, practice. I can actually set up a session that it's like it's live. I do everything like it's live, but guess what? It's not live. It's recording it in the background.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know StreamYard has that feature. It's very important, isn't it?
Oh, it
Extremely
is.
important feature.
Yeah, because as you're getting started, you don't necessarily know where all these buttons are going. And if you're doing a broadcast, then it becomes, quite a challenge to be able to manage the console and manage the guest. And I mean, that's kind of one of the biggest things I have is like I've done a lot of shows with 3+ people kind of thing. So you're managing the questions because you're the host and you're trying to keep the conversation going, and you're trying to manage the tech as well, like the graphics and the questions and the comments and all that kind of stuff. So get some practice basically before you jump into it. Practice on your own, and then get somebody to come in as a guest so that you can actually see how it works and that sort of thing. So,
And how easy is it to, when you set it up, how is it to push it to the sites you want to push it to? So do you just simply decide, okay, I want to send this one to my Facebook group, and then it just goes once you push record?
yeah. So I can select any number of groups. You do have to be specific, and you can only broadcast with one on one with Be Live. So I have to go through and select which page I'm broadcasting from. But it can also be like it's just a private session. It's recording it, but it's not going live. So it can be a page, it can be a group, it can be all those different levels within Facebook.
Yeah. Well, this is going to become increasingly important because I have friends that chat to individuals, and that's great, but it's time consuming. They network with one person at a time, which is always preferable. But there's 8 billion people on the planet, and you can't talk to everyone for an hour every day.
No.
So you've got to sort of now get really quite clever and say, look, at what point do we say, look, we'll broadcast to 1,000 people and we'll take comments, and then after the call we'll follow up with the people that were really interested, rather than those cold call like the 80s where you used to just call people and talk for an hour, or if they allowed you to talk at all. And then suddenly you've talked to one person. You've had one prospect. I guess this idea that I love is this is the thing I love most, the multi-streaming. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and I'm broadcasting to your Facebook group, many of which have never heard of me.
Yeah.
And I would
And
never
Keith
have
is
got
amazing.
a chance. Well, thank you. But I would never have had a chance to talk to your friends with my knowledge, with my group, because I don't know who they are. So now you're introducing me to your tribe, and the reverse. You've been on some of my shows, and the same. So I think the multi-streaming is really the essence, but you've given us a very good checklist, which we're going to cross-reference with every site we try. Next week, maybe StreamYard, and then we'll go up the line. As one of the things I want to do too is I'm going to start featuring, I'm going to start requesting that we feature people that are doing certain things on certain programs. Like next week, I'd really love to feature my friend Anne-Marie Cross, who's just an expert at StreamYard. Yeah, and another friend of mine, Jane Jackson, who's just an expert at LinkedIn Live.
Yeah.
She's just, not only has she got it, which she's like one of the very lucky people in the world that finally got it, because I know you've been stomping to try and get it. But, you know, she's put in her name, she got it, she's using it, and she's thumping it. She's really, really getting it. And she uses it in a very professional way, like this. But instead of this going to Facebook, it goes to LinkedIn, because that's where her tribe is. Yeah? And that's an important conversation to have. Where is your tribe? Don't just do the easy ones. Go to where the people want to hear the stuff. Yeah. Have you got a good following on LinkedIn?
Yeah. I have about 13,000 connections.
Okay. So it'd be worth getting it right.
Yeah. And that's kind of what, well, I don't know. Anyways, I'm not LinkedIn. Well, it didn't come to Australia till like last, I think it was like July of 2019.
Okay.
And then there were some people who had it, but not too many. They're expanding it slowly. I don't know why they do that, but whatever. That's okay. Awesome. All right. Anything else? What other criteria? We've talked about a lot of things there, Keith.
Well, I think the main things for me, just to reiterate on the 15, which I love, the main criteria for me is that, one, you have to have a freemium model. I personally believe that a site should have a freemium model, that you should be able to try it for free just to know if it works. Because I don't want to pay an amount of money and then decide I've got to ask for a refund, and then there's all these complications. And there's a zillion sites doing it, so why should I pay money? You know, there's got to be a trust factor that the people that you want, this is probably the big point, the people that you want will upscale. I mean, straight away I took the ads off Spotify. I got it. You know, I don't want the ads. I'll just pay you $10. It's such a no-brainer. You want to hang out with people that are willing to pay money. So you have to have the confidence to, I'm talking to the companies now, you have, like Zoom, very robust free product. Very easy to understand what Zoom's about. But you get stuff when you add money. So that's the first criteria. I'm only going to feature sites that have a freemium model. I like your thought about guests. Some sites don't allow guests. Can you believe it? Why would you do that? Like, that's the point, the talk show format. And how many guests? So BeLive has up to 4 of the premium model. StreamYard has 6. The third criteria is, well, how many sites can I stream to? You know, I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn. Those are essential for me. They have to be included in the criteria. So Zoom, for instance, has these features, but they don't include Periscope. Can you believe it? You can't send a Zoom call to Periscope. I still can't believe that. So that site's no good to me for that feature. But I think your criteria is very robust. I think we just simply reiterate those as we try each new site. And as we try them, we'll both probably be learning as we go. So we'll have that criteria to base it on.
Yeah, and it's nice to compare them too, because if we've got a set type of criteria, then everybody can kind of look at that and go, this is what I need to be looking for as well. Fantastic. So, and I've actually added a few more, Keith, so we might have to expand that list a little bit as well.
I think this is a nice format, 30 to 40 minutes, just have a bit of a play, and I'll record them. I love video editing, so I'll take this file today. One question I did have though, and this is a feature I really like in Zoom, it has this feature called the speaker format. What that means is when the speaker is speaking, they fill the frame. And when does BeLive have that feature, or are you always side by side?
Yeah, we're always side by side. Like I can change, I can shift. You're the main screen. I'm the main screen. We can go side by side with a graphic behind.
Okay, so you've got that feature.
Yeah. So I can adjust that manually, but it's not automatic. But I guess sometimes that's okay, because if somebody coughs, sometimes they become like the featured speaker. Well, it's like, no, I just cough.
what you've just said there is very, very powerful for two reasons. One is when you have the speaker feature, which Zoom has, and you have the facility to mute everyone, but if you don't have it muted, if I coughed, suddenly I take over the screen and I didn't say anything. I'm just coughing, right? But the reason I love the speaker-only format is that when I'm editing, if I'm speaking, I just have to feature myself or the guest. But if we're side by side, I've got to go in and zoom you out, which means that the quality is reduced.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, Keith, because you want to be able to reuse this, and the fact that it does that makes that so much easier.
Yeah, because editing, I mean, anyone who's never done editing won't know this, but the editing takes hours. You know, to get it to look good. We're just chatting, we're bantering, and some of the stuff is good and some of the stuff's a little bit sort of not so good. But when you're editing, you want to get the good stuff, and you've got to find it, you've got to zoom it out, and you've got to, you know, feature it out, and you've got to put in a logo on the top, and you've got graphics, and all of that takes time. So one of the criteria we'll have is how easy is it to repurpose.
So I should have been doing that then, Keith.
Well, I don't know if you see how that looks different.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But you've got to manually do it. It's not voice activated. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. It's manual. So
yeah, okay.
now I'm talking, so I'm the center of the screen. And then if
now
you were talking.
Yeah, okay, I get that. But you've had to push a button to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In a sense, that in itself is an interesting feature. With Zoom, the way it works is when I talk or when anyone talks and coughs, they get the screen after a second. So it's an automatic feature, and that means that it looks like TV. I mean, this could be Channel 7, couldn't it?
Well, it is Channel 7. It's channel KD, Keith and Doyle.
That's right. It's KD TV.
KD TV. Keith and Doyle TV. Coming live.
Why don't we grab that Why don't we grab that URL? KD TV. Live on Facebook.
Exactly. Well, you got to laugh again, Keith.
Because that's the simulation, isn't it? That's what we're trying to simulate real life. And this looks actually quite good even at 720p. You can get a sense that here I am sitting in my home office. I'm a real person. You know, I mean what I say what I mean, I do what I say. And that brings us back to the real essence of why video in the first place. Because, you know, you can see me, I can see you. You know, you've written a book. You've got a blog. You've probably been interviewed on a podcast. But when you get videos, I can see you, I can hear you. It's a totally different level, isn't it?
You just can't touch.
Oh, not yet. Not yet. But because is that a valid point? Why live stream at all? Why even bother with the video thing? Are you still getting that question, or do people starting to see? Just spat. You know, are people starting to see that the video is really the thing now?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. I certainly hope so. I think that this, you know, you hate to put it to that, but with COVID, a lot of people have been forced into that situation where they don't have a choice, right? Like they have to make something work now because they're working from home. They have to having to connect with clients or do a presentation, and they can't go there. So I think it's been really escalated by the fact that we're kind of forced, and whether that's good or bad, I'm not sure, but that's sort of really important to look at.
It's very, very important because when I chatted to you last, you were in Sydney talking about the idea of why did you go to Sydney from Perth, and you said, well, look, there's some value in that. I went there and I met my clients and we had lots to talk about and it was good. Now you don't have that option, do you?
No, the world doesn't have that option.
No one in the world has that option anymore. Not far away now, a couple of months maybe, but right at the moment, April 2020, which is, you know, really a major. We'll look back at this period of history really with the awe. There's a lot going on. This is
as a shift in our learning and what we do and how we do things and all that. I've got a couple of questions from Wendy. Welcome, Wendy. Thanks for joining us. Could I ask? Yeah, actually, I'll show this one. Could I ask, Keith, you are very clear. Hello and lovely to see you, meet and listen to you, Doyle. Doyle, your screen is very blurred.
There it is, 720p. That's what 720p looks like.
Yeah, because BeLive actually changes. Like I said, it filters it down, and it could be the internet too. Typically, I'm running about 90 megabits per second, but uploads sometimes can be a little bit differently. So that might be some of the cause there as well. And then when she says, "Thanks again, Wendy," when your screen is minimized and small, you look clearer than when you are both on our screen side by side. Okay. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm just ugly. Maybe I should be minimized like that. And that probably comes down to how it compresses the video. Like I said, I am using a third-party Logitech. I think it's the 930 camera. So BeLive is taking that feed and then it's rebroadcasting it. So I'm not sure actually how it's doing that, but I'm surprised that I would be blurry. But
there's a couple of things going on there. It's the quality of your webcam. It's the quality of the BeLive product, but it's also the quality of the internet in Perth.
Yeah,
those three things combined. And well, I've got the NBN now, but I'm only at 47 MBS. But that's the top speed. That's my top speed on a very, very good day.
Yeah.
47.
Well, I've had NBN since like 2014, and I'm at 95 megabits per second right now.
Wow.
So that's why I think it's an issue, right? In terms of what BeLive is doing, and that's something to consider as well. I think the quality is a little bit better on Zoom because you can actually see that that difference in camera quality, which is
I've actually done a screenshot of the difference between Zoom at 1080p and StreamYard at 720p. It's a dramatic difference in the fact that it's quite blurry, and Wendy can see this because she's got her mind and her ears and her eyes tuned to this because she's from the radio industry and she's used to producing content, so she can see it. We had a chat yesterday about this, that some people can't see or hear these differences, but we can all sense them. And when with 1080p, it looks lifelike, almost 3D. Like you can almost get this sense of perspective. Yeah. But when it's blurry, it's almost like a picture in a magazine, or almost very pixelated, like a mosaic. Yeah,
it is. And actually, while and this again might be the platform itself is something to maybe consider. Keith, when you talk, you become blurrier. So obviously, there's some issues with it converting the video signal. Yeah. So Wendy said again, Doyle, you are much clearer. You're not blurred. That's probably because I wasn't talking or moving.
Yeah. And again, that's the ability of the internet and the service to pick up. Why that's important, why this is actually really, really important, is that you mentioned earlier that you can get a really quite good result with a webcam on your laptop. And you can get quite a good result with the headphones that you get with your phone when you're starting.
Yes.
But as you go up the line, it might be worth paying $100 for a good webcam. It might be quite a good idea to get a good pair of headphones or a good mic. We haven't chatted about this, but what mic are you using and how did you decide on it?
I'm using the Rode Podcaster mic, and I've sort of switched mics over the years just to kind of get a better sense of the quality, I guess. Like I didn't start with sort of top of the line, and that's the thing to recognize too, is you might not even enjoy it, right? You might not like doing lives because there are some obviously challenges, and you have to have that comfort and that ability to carry things as well. But yeah, start cheap, start with something like your phone. Honestly, a lot of my Zoom calls are just with your old headset type thing. So you don't have to be that expensive, but then you can get into like mixer panels and all that kind of stuff. So doesn't have to be complicated. Start with a USB microphone, and then you can kind of graduate it into something a little bit different as well.
The reason I like to have this type of conversation is because if, for instance, we live in a world in a year's time where everyone's on live streaming, then everyone in the world is doing it. And then how do you differentiate yourself? One way to do that is you could sound better. You could look better. You could have a green screen. You could have lighting. Each of these layers, I call it, each of these layers slightly elevate you in the pack. if you're just in your lounge room with washing in the background and kids running around, you know, you're very low on the scale. And Wendy and I chatted about this. Yeah, Wendy Marie and I chatted about this yesterday, that, you know, sometimes we can't even listen to a podcast. You've got like 15 seconds to get my attention and you're in and you're out because there's such poor quality that, you know, we're busy and we haven't got time for rubbish. But if one of the reasons why it's worth considering over time upscaling your offering is that you suddenly become the voice of authority. Your voice sounds great because of that microphone. It already sounds great, but the microphone accentuates that. If I was just sitting here with using the webcam mic, there'd be background noise, and, you know, my wife's working out in the lounge room and there she is making a noise on her calls and I can hear that, and the fire engine's going past and cats in the, you know, cradle and the planes flying overhead. That's very distracting. So I'm all for spending a little bit of money to go up the line, but I'm also all for the idea that you've got to try it. Don't invest top of the tree products thinking that you're suddenly going to have this amazing live stream because you've got gear. It's not about the gear. You've got to have the personality. You've got to have something to say, right?
And you've got the personality and space too.
Thank you. But the point is that the show has to be interesting. What this show is called is Live Streaming Decoded. If that's of no interest to you, then it doesn't matter what mic I'm using.
Good point.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how cool your logo is there right at the top.
Doesn't matter how good you look on camera. The camera can't make me look any better.
But the content has to be there. So what we've decided with this show, and it's the first one, and we're warming up, is that we're going to decode all of the options in the live streaming space because we feel that this is where the world is going. And we haven't even talked about this, but Saturday Night Live, I mentioned this before the show, went completely live on Saturday with every single guest zooming in, using that verb again, right? Like Saturday night, people zoomed in. That's a dream come true for the CEO of Zoom. Like everyone in the world has heard about Zoom from that show. I zoomed into guys, you know. In fact, I went and bought the URL zooming in on Twitter in 2014. So I knew that that's going to be my brand. I'm zooming in on Twitter. I'm not flying to New Zealand to speak. I'm just going to zoom in. I did this gig in Lake Tekapo at 11 in the morning. I zoomed into 180 people. They put me on the screen. I've been doing this. You and I have been doing this for 5 years. But we thought what we'd do is we'd collectively collate all of our experiences and start a checklist. I love this sort of learn as you go type of show. We're just average people. We're just people who have been doing it. We're very passionate and we love sharing, don't we? You know, if you want to work with us, we've got a website and you can call me and I'll call you back and we can do that later. But the point is that we've got a show where we're sharing stuff. And I was actually chatting to Wendy and also other people that there's a shift in the world from I'll do it for you to let me teach you how to do it at a reduced price. Because there's 8 billion people in the world. And if everyone can afford $20, then I can be making $20 times 1,000 and I can sleep in. You know? And I went to God.
Or you can broadcast in your pajamas.
I went and got a coffee this morning at 7:30, knowing full well that I didn't have a meeting at 8 o'clock, which I normally would have. And the freedom of being able to go for a walk, the time freedom, being able to go for a walk and get a coffee with wifey and, you know, see the run at the joggers and, you know, have a bit of a chat to the guys who just delivered the fresh bread. You know, for me, it's all about lifestyle. You know, we still all need to make money, but there's lots of ways to do it. And live streaming is a way to share your message with lots and lots of people really fast and really efficiently. And that's the thing I think that really excites me the most. Would you agree?
100%. And I think that's one of the key points that, you know, we need to talk about too, and other ones, is that you're actually going global and around the block, right, from your own kind of backyard. So it doesn't mean you have to be an international, it doesn't mean you have to be an international business, right? You can still go global around, you know, around the block from your own backyard, from your own office, wherever the case may be. And that's the real power, right? And you look at sort of what's happening in the world today is those businesses that are able to see that, hey, you know what, I can get customers within my area to come because I'm doing a live like that. That's really powerful stuff. They didn't know about you before.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, even myself, even though I've been doing this for years, is Carol and I, my wife and I, we've actually upped the game with internet buying. So there's a couple of things that we could only get at certain shops that are in the city, which is an hour from us. And Carol's not in the city anymore. She works in the city and she never goes. So we've had to source some of these things online, which we never did before because she was walking past on the way back to the train. And it occurred to me, well, why didn't we do this before? Like we bought 2 in a packet, they delivered it to the door, saved $5, and we didn't have to go there. Why haven't we been doing this more? And so more and more of us are starting to think, well, you know, what in our life now, what can we do online? What can we do there's a new phrase, contactless, right? There's this new phrase, contactless.
Yeah.
So someone comes to my house and delivers food in a bag. You know, I've only started doing that. I've never done that before. So on a Saturday night, we watch a movie in our house and someone delivers food in a bag, Uber and a menu log and things like this. Some people have been doing this a lot longer than me. But then I thought, well, why have we done this before? Saves money, don't have to go there, and we just eat in our house. And so what we're doing now is we're talking about this online world. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. Doyle's in Perth. Wendy Marie is in a town in South Australia, which I've forgotten the name of, but it's not far from Adelaide, which is the capital. So right there's 3 states on the call. And we've never met in person. We may never meet in person. Does that matter? We're still communicating in every other way that we used to do 100 years ago. We're just not in the same room. And the thing that I love more than anything is that we can record it. You know, I've been to some gigs. I'm sure you've done this. I've been to some gigs. I've spoken really well, and no one recorded it. And I'm thinking, that's gone. I didn't get that. I don't get to see that again. All these other speakers that spoke and I forgot what they said. I took notes, but I've forgotten the inflections and the jokes. Does that piss you off too when you go to things and they never record it? You never get
100%. Yeah. Or you get some video from the back end kind of thing that doesn't show much. So yeah, sometimes land out. Sometimes they're not even organized for that, or they weren't, right? And nowadays it's again shifted where you better be recording, and well, obviously now it's all online. So, and yeah, I think that's important too, is that we have to look at how do we actually pull this stuff together. We can't travel. So does that mean that business has to stop? No, it does not, right? It means you have to get creative. It means you have to kind of shift how you're doing things and how you're preparing things. And you mentioned the food example, right? And it's one that I talk about a lot recently, is that we need to be able to create businesses that are going to be successful, need to create a digital experience that's remarkable and they remember, right? As you pointed out. And unless they're doing that, you might happen, but it might not, right? And so you talk about the food. Well, what if you could combine, to create a digital experience, what if you could combine that sort of food service where you have the ingredients with the chef who actually does a live stream from his restaurant at a certain time of day. He sends you the ingredients in advance. You obviously pay for them, right? They're shipped by Uber or whomever. You get them, you jump online with the chef who shows you how to actually cook. Like, to me, that's a remarkable digital experience. And that's what we have to be able to create.
Yeah, well, we've recently started Amazon Prime, and Telstra, which we have our phone with. You can buy the absolute latest movies for $4.95. Actually, you can rent them for 7 days. So I had an experience prior to this experience, which I've talked about many times, and I wanted to see Bohemian Rhapsody. I really wanted to see Bohemian Rhapsody. I tried twice, and on one particular time, some family members got sick and we had to stop, and then the second time they cancelled it the day before, even though it was listed on their website and in the paper. Really pissed off. Went there, lined up, got to the line. I'm sorry, mate, we don't have that on today. And we ended up watching this really terrible movie, worst movie ever.
What was it called?
I'm not going to mention. But the point is that I got Bohemian Rhapsody for $4.95 on Telstra, and then I'm watching it in my house in HD. And you're talking about combining it. So imagine you get food in a bag delivered to the door, slightly cheaper because it's takeaway. You're watching a movie you want to see at 1/10 of the price of going to the cinema. And suddenly that's an experience. It's not the same, but it's an experience. And right at the moment, we're all starting to explore, well, how can I see a movie if I can't go to the cinema? Because cinemas are closed. Like, they're one of the first things that closed. And how can I get food if I can't go to a restaurant? These things have been around for a while, but people are starting to open up to them. And those examples are what we need to transcend or transfer to other businesses. You know, whether it's selling cartridges for your printer, or whether it's selling shampoo, or whether it's toothpaste, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that's where you were going with that, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Is that you have to create those moments, right? That allow you to connect with your audience, and this live streaming is one of those ways. At the same time, you again, I talked about it earlier, but you have to connect it to the business side of it as well. Like, don't just have a show for having a show's purpose, right? Have it as a business purpose so that you can add to that experience, or you can create that experience.
Yeah.
So look and see how you can actually add it to what you do, right? If you're a chef, have a cooking show, but can you get people to purchase the ingredients rather? If you're a mechanic, can you show them how to assemble something, or something like that? So you're really adding to that experience. So it's less transactional and more transformational. It's kind of what you're looking at.
Wow. I love the chefing. I love the chef idea, because I would never have thought of selling the ingredients and making that like a business model. I've got a cooking show every Saturday night, and we're going to cook whatever, Rogan Josh this week. But I'm going to send, if you want to, you can cook with me, and I'll send you the ingredients in a box. It'll come on Saturday morning, and it'll all be there, all ready, all laid out, all measured up. And just turn on your telly, and we can do it together.
Yeah,
What a
exactly.
great idea.
Like hello, well, I call it like if Jamie Oliver meets HelloFresh meets Uber Eats, right?
Yeah.
Jamie Oliver, he's broadcaster, right? You watch his shows, which are cool. What if you can get HelloFresh, which I'm not sure if it's just in
Yeah.
Australia, but you basically get the ingredients. You have to prep it. So what if you could have that on your iPad in front of you while you're prepping your ingredients, and Jamie Oliver or the chef or whatever is kind of walking you through this, right? And adding some environments to it, adding an experience to it as well. So you get your food delivered before you actually start. And yes, it's Saturday night, whatever the case may be, at 7 p.m., 6 p.m. Let's cook.
What you're saying there is, and I've always believed this, but right at the moment it's becoming evident. I've always believed that these experiences are better than real
They
life.
certainly can be.
Yeah. Like, imagine if, because I quite like cooking, imagine if Jamie Oliver was teaching me to cook, and I had the ingredients, and I was cooking and watching his show. That is 100% better, if you like cooking, than going and sitting and having it served up to you by someone else. Because I
Yeah.
can do that any day of the week, any
Or
time.
yeah, or I mean, before they kind of collapse, but you could go to a Jamie Oliver restaurant, and you know what? It's just another restaurant. I didn't honestly step in one because it's like, well, I can get Italian elsewhere, right? I don't really feel that this is Jamie Oliver, and I'm not saying I'm a super fan, right? But you don't get that sense. Whereas, and again, it doesn't have to be him. You could get somebody to swear at you like Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
But the point is that if you're a chef and you have a restaurant, how do you connect with your audience? You kind of have to combine things. And it actually started with looking at, there was a restaurant, Mr. Miyagi out of Melbourne. They actually started, or this is when I first heard about it, late March, where yes, the restaurants are closed, but what they did is they transitioned quickly to making food, like making soup packets, big soup packets that you would buy and take them home and cook when you get there. So can you add an extra step to that? Yes, that's what a live stream does. Show us how you do it. Get us connected. Get us involved in that whole process. And that's the power of live.
Well, MasterChef has just started this week.
Yeah. Well, and that's what the thing is, but they should, I know they pre-record this, right? But they should have been doing something, or maybe they can still. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry, you were going to say.
Well, I'm just thinking that I've always believed, because I'm a very strong advocate of online, I've always believed that online processes are at least as good and sometimes better than real life. And these types of examples, the Bohemian Rhapsody example comes to mind every single time. I tried twice to go physically myself, and then I had Bohemian Rhapsody playing in my house in HD for $20. I bought the CD. In that instance, I bought a DVD. I've always been an advocate of that process, but now a lot of people, and especially a lot of businesses, are pivoting. That's the key word. They're pivoting to say, how can we do this better? How can we do this so that we can not only keep our business going, because that's a big question, but also we can even improve upon this. And coming out of this process, there'll be people that won't go back. There's companies that will fold and won't be with us. We won't be able to go back to them. They'll simply close down. Hopefully not too many, but there'll be businesses that won't be available to us moving forward. So the ones that can evolve and play the game with us, Uber meets MasterChef meets HelloFresh meets Jamie Oliver. I mean, imagine that combination, as you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can now do that. You can create a digital experience worth remembering, right? You can create that moment with all these different tools. You just have to look at, how do I integrate? How do I combine them? It's fascinating. I love it. I think that's the true power here. And it's kind of shifted us, forced us to adapt. Again, we talked about that earlier. It's forced us to adapt to how do we actually adjust our business to be able to provide that. But in saying that, we can create more of a transformational business as opposed to just a transactional business where I'm buying this ingredient, I'm doing this. How do we combine that? That's the fascinating, that's the exciting stuff.
Well, look, why don't we? I'll let you go and get back to your day, and you're going to send me the recording, yeah?
Yeah. No, we're still live, Keith. So we're still broadcasting,
we're
my
still
friend.
going. But
we're like almost 4 times what we said we were going to be. We're like
we promised we'd only
minutes.
do 20 to 30 minutes, and now here we are at 80 to 90.
Anyway, we're obviously two tech heads that love our stuff and love talking about it. So thank you so much, Keith. I really appreciate it. How do we get in touch with you?
Okay, well, I'm on Twitter, so I'd really love you to contact me on Twitter so that's at Keith Keller on Twitter. But if you're not on Twitter, and don't be embarrassed if you're not, because not everyone is, I'm at keithkeller.com.au. Don't forget the AU, because there's 100 other Keith Kellers in the US, and one of them's got the .com. So keithkeller.com.au, and it's KELLER. So contact me there. And what about you? How do people contact you, Doyle?
Sorry, I'm just going to put this keithkeller.com.au there. See, this is actually a good feature of Live.
Yeah.
That we can actually do that. Did I get that right?
That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Yeah. And you can find me. I'm at Doyle Buehler on most channels. You can go to my book site where I talk about digital strategy and how to actually put these pieces together, a part of your platform on breakthrough.digital. And there I can show that as well. Or reach out on LinkedIn. Happy to answer your questions. Please get in touch with us as well if you're watching in the replay.
Yeah, please do. And I'll share these. This is exactly what we're talking about with the repurposing. What I love about what we're doing is that we've done a live, and that's great. That's part one. But I'm going to take snippets of that and highlights, then send people to the full file if they want to go to the full file, or just hear the 2-minute snippets with the essence, the chapters, if you like.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get off, tell me how to do that, and I'll start
send the
editing.
recording to you. Yeah.
I'll send you the editing today.
All right, cool. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks, Keith, for your time. I really
later.
appreciate your expertise, and we'll talk soon.
No worries.